Former White House aide Omarosa Manigault Newman says she will not be silenced by the president. That came hours after the president's campaign said it would file an arbitration action against Manigault Newman, alleging she broke a confidentiality agreement. The former staffer says she's been interviewed by the special counsel in the Russia investigation and is ready to give Robert Mueller any recordings she made. Weijia Jiang has more.
There was a lot of corruption that went on both in the campaign and in the White House.
The next president of the United States!
Former presidential aide Omarosa Manigault Newman says she's ready to provide special counsel Robert Mueller whatever he needs to expose wrongdoing at the Trump campaign and the White House.
I'm going to blow the whistle on all of it.
Hours earlier, the president's team filed an arbitration against Omarosa for breach of her 2016 confidentiality agreement with the Trump campaign.
I don't believe that I violated, but I'm going to leave that to the lawyers. He's trying to silence me, so what is he trying to hide?
Omarosa is in the middle of a media blitz to promote her new book, Unhinged, published by an imprint of Simon & Schuster, a division of CBS. In it, she paints President Trump as a racist who's mentally unfit to run the country. To support her claims, Omarosa has released recordings she secretly made inside the White House and on the campaign trail. In one of the recordings, staffers are heard strategizing on ways to deal with the potential fallout of an alleged tape where Mr. Trump uses the N-word multiple times.
We just want to make sure that we're aware that, we're kind of battle stations, so we're ready to go.
On Tuesday, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said she wasn't sure if the president had used the derogatory racial slur in the past.
I can't guarantee anything. Look, I haven't been in every single room. I can tell you the president has addressed this directly.
Weijia Jiang joins me now from the White House. Weijia, what's the White House saying about Omarosa's confidentiality agreement, and is it normal for presidential aides to sign agreements like this?
Press Secretary Sarah Sanders answered several questions about this during her last briefing, and she says it is totally normal for people who work in the government to sign these sorts of agreements, especially when they have security clearances. And that part is true. In past administrations, if someone had that clearance and was going to be exposed to highly sensitive information, they would sign these sorts of agreements to protect that information. But we spoke with several former White House officials who say here's the problem. These agreements that are inside the Trump world, the Trump campaign and the White House are not those, because they also include a non-disparagement clause. And that means these employees, top-level ones who even don't have a security clearance, such as Omarosa, have to sign away their right to criticize the president and to make money for their time here at the administration. And those former officials say, an agreement like that is unheard of, it's not enforceable, and it's totally outrageous. And so even though Sanders is trying to say, look, this happens all the time, that distinction is very important, because that is not normal.
She's been revealing a lot of different things. In addition to that, Omarosa said yesterday that President Trump knew about hacked emails from the Clinton campaign before they were even released by WikiLeaks in 2016. She also says she's been interviewed by the special counsel. So what kind of problems could this create for President Trump?
To your first point, President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, says, point blank, Omarosa is lying. The president was not aware that that was going to happen during the campaign with WikiLeaks and the Clinton emails. To your second question, it really depends on the quality of this alleged evidence that Omarosa claims she has. She says she would be a good witness that Mueller would want in the Russia investigation. She says she has additional recordings that he would be interested in, and says she's ready and willing to hand them all over as soon as he asks. The problem is we don't know what she's talking about. She has not provided any sort of detail about who might be targeted in these recordings and what sort of information could be out there. And so it's really up to Mueller whether he wants to interview her again, since she claims that he has already talked to her before, and if he wants to collect that evidence. But again, there are some credibility problems with Omarosa. She continues to make these claims and, day after another without providing much detail or evidence. So at this point, it's just what she is saying. And it could be a problem if she does have more recordings that turn out to have to be, evidence that the special counsel wants. We just don't know if those exist.
Well, she has also not provided evidence of the tape in which she says the president uses the N-word, but President Trump has continued to attack her on Twitter. Now, what is the political cost, do you think, of this particular controversy for the president?
You know, I think that really depends, too, on whether this alleged tape ever surfaces. Because at this point, the only person who has publicly said they have heard the president saying the N-word is Omarosa herself. She doesn't have evidence. She doesn't have anyone corroborating the story, at least anyone who's willing to put themselves out there and say, I heard it as well. And so for now, it's just something that she is saying and alleging. But the president is responding. He's attacked her several times on Twitter. He's sort of adding fuel to this fire. But whether that's a political detriment, as of right now, the answer is no, because his base is backing him up, and they're saying she's just making this up because we don't have any evidence. We haven't heard him saying it, and no one else is saying that he used this racial slur. And so, you know, until that tape comes out, we don't know what kind of implications this could have and whether it would anyway, because, you know, we have heard the president saying all sorts of things, some of which were on tape. And, you know, that was before he won the presidency, and here he is. So, you know, whether that would move the needle for people who already support him is a question.
Well, it is a distraction also with things like North Korea and Iran and the budget, et cetera, going on. All right, Weijia Jiang, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Don.